Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dig into a really powerful message from the past, a guide written over 2 centuries ago on how to build a soul and live a free life.
Okay, so let's dive right in. What we're looking at today is this fascinating piece of fiction, a supposed lost manuscript from the 18th century, but it feels so incredibly modern, like the final, urgent thoughts of a true revolutionary thinker.
And wow, the premise here is just so powerful. The idea is that in 1797, the great feminist pioneer Mary Wollstonecraft is writing this for her baby daughter. So this isn't just dry philosophy, it's meant to be an intimate, urgent letter sent across time, a guide for a life that she knows is going to be a struggle.
So, the manuscript's first big lesson isn't about society or politics like you might expect. No, it's about something way more fundamental: cultivating the human soul. It's all about the work of building a strong inner self.
Here's her crucial point, right? A whole person can't be just a creature of pure logic, and they can't be a slave to every single emotion either. To really build a soul, you have to unite what society is always trying to rip apart.
And you can see she really goes after both extremes. On one side, you have the cold rationalist who can build these brilliant arguments but feels absolutely no real anger at injustice. Then on the other side, you have the woman of sensibility who might cry over a sad story in a book but is totally useless when faced with real-world suffering. See, one path leads to cruelty and the other leads to just inaction.
And that's what brings us right to the heart of her idea. This integration, this weaving together of thought and feeling, that's what she calls the cultivation of the soul. And for her, it's the most important, foundational, lifelong work for her daughter, and really for anyone who wants to live a complete life.
Okay, so once she's laid out this blueprint for your inner world, she turns her attention outwards. She starts to explore what she calls the chains of womanhood, in a world that, she argues, isn't just not made for women, it actually actively deforms them.
I mean, her language here is just so strong. She doesn't hold back. She says women aren't just at a disadvantage, they're actively deformed right from birth. Society teaches them their worth is in how they look, not what they do. Their value is in their purity, not their personhood. They're basically trained to be pretty ornaments and, get this, to hide how smart they are so they don't threaten fragile male egos.
And this is so important. Wollstonecraft points out that all these external pressures eventually become internal chains. Women often end up participating in their own oppression, not because they're foolish, but because the alternative, rebelling, means risking poverty, being ridiculed, and becoming a social outcast. So, going along with it, that becomes a survival strategy.
You see this play out in her critique of marriage. She gets the ideal, this beautiful idea of a union of two souls. But then she slams it right up against the brutal legal reality of her day, where a woman's entire identity, her property, even her body, were all legally swallowed up by her husbands. A wife, she says, becomes nothing more than a shadow.
So you'd think her biggest fear for her daughter would be, I don't know, unhappiness, right? But it wasn't. It was a comfortable, soul-crushing kind of happiness. The fear was that her daughter would get so used to her cage that she'd start to think it was a home, mistaking being controlled for being content. A happiness that's actually the death of your true self.
So if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, this is where the manuscript really becomes a hands-on guide, offering a powerful toolkit for how to get free.
So she gives us 3 tools. And these aren't just, nice ideas. She sees them as totally non-negotiable for building a life that's free and authentic.
First up, education. But hold on, we're not talking about the kind of finishing school education designed to create pretty ornaments. She demands a rigorous education, one that actually strengthens the mind and makes a woman, as she puts it, too intelligent to be easily governed. Okay, the second one is this really fascinating idea she calls generative solitude. She totally reframes being alone. It's not about loneliness or failure, it's a form of power. It's this space you create for yourself on purpose, where you can figure out who you really are, away from the constant pressure of what everyone else wants you to be. It's where you build a self you can actually rely on.
And then there's the third point, which for her time was just unbelievably radical. Without economic independence, a woman is always in a state of bondage. The ability to earn your own bread isn't just about money. For her, it is the absolute foundation of freedom.
So, how does this all come together in the end? Well, in the final part, she kind of zooms out and looks to the future, leaving behind a legacy of rebellion that's filled with both hope and revolution.
So as she's wrapping up the manuscript, she starts wondering about the future. She doesn't give us one simple prediction. Instead, she lays out two very different paths that women could take.
She lays out two possibilities. On one hand, you've got continuation, a future of slow, superficial changes. Maybe women get a few more rights, but the deeper inequality is still there, just hidden. The other path is transformation, a real, true revolution, not just in laws, but in how we think, one that completely dismantles the whole gender hierarchy.
And this is how it all wraps up. It's incredibly personal. She passes the torch directly to her daughter. Her real legacy isn't her books or her ideas. It's her child, who she hopes will carry forward not just her blood, but her struggle and her hopes for a better world that she herself will never get to see.
You know, this text is over 200 years old, but it leaves us with a question that feels like it could have been written yesterday. It really makes you ask yourself, what are my modern chains? What are the things, both inside and out, that shape who I am? And what tools, education, solitude, independence, will I use to cultivate my own soul and fight for my own freedom? It's a powerful reminder that this work is never, ever finished.